The silence changed when she entered the main living area. Until that moment, the penthouse had felt like a mausoleum preserved at perfect temperature, too immaculate to be called empty, too deliberate to be called still. But here, in the vast core of Arthur Vance's private sanctuary, silence became something else entirely. It was no longer the passive absence of voices. It had structure, depth, a hidden machinery beneath it. The kind of silence that did not simply surround a person, but study them. Isabella stopped at the threshold and did not move for several seconds. The room before her was immense, unfolding in layers of shadow, glass, pale stone, and dark wood polished to a near-reflective sheen. The ceilings seemed even higher here than in the foyer, not because they physically rose farther, but because the space opened so broadly that it erased the usual sense of domestic scale. Nothing about it felt made for ordinary living. The seating area, with its low sculptural couches and severe marble tables, looked less arranged for comfort than for controlled performance. The lighting was subdued, but not soft. It was precise. Golden in some places, cool in others, each pool of illumination defining territory rather than offering warmth. And somewhere within that vastness, hidden inside walls and ceilings and interfaces too elegant to announce themselves, the penthouse seemed to become aware of her. She took one step. A line of recessed light along the far wall brightened by a barely perceptible degree. Not enough to be obvious. Enough to be noticed. Her shoulders tightened. She turned her head slightly, scanning the room. At first, she saw nothing but designed smooth planes, bronze accents, shadowed corners. Then a faint movement caught her eye near the seam where one wall met the ceiling. A tiny lens recessed into a dark housing rotated almost imperceptibly, adjusting itself with the slow intelligence of a creature trying not to seem alive. Her pulse shifted. It was not a home security system in the ordinary sense. It was subtler than that, more expensive, more seamless. Surveillance refined into architecture. She moved again. This time another light adjusted. Not brighter exactly, but narrower, reshaping itself as she crossed into the room as though the penthouse were editing its own attention. The realization came cold and immediate. Nothing here was passive. The space did not simply contain her. It responded to her. Not for comfort. For tracking. A quiet disgust moved through her, followed almost instantly by something sharper. Exposure. She had the irrational urge to smooth her dress, to straighten her posture, to resist giving this invisible system any sign of uncertainty. The response angered her precisely because it arrived so quickly. Already, the room was training her body to behave. The thought lingered as she walked farther inside. The rug beneath her heels softened each step, but the silence of the place made every other sensation louder. The climate system whispered through hidden vents with a low, continuous breath. Somewhere behind the walls, unseen currents of electricity lived and moved and regulated everything: temperature, light, sound, security, air. She could hear none of it distinctly, and yet all of it together created a faint low-frequency hum, so subtle it might have escaped notice in any normal environment. Here, it became unbearable. Not because it was loud, because it was constant. A deep, almost rhythmic vibration just beneath perception, like the building itself was thinking. Breathing. Waiting. Beyond the glass, the city murmured at a great distance, sirens softened by height, traffic reduced to a distant oceanic hiss. But even New York, that endless machine of sound, seemed subdued beneath the dominant hum of Arthur's tower. The world below still existed, but only as background. Here, his system spoke more clearly than the city ever could. She crossed the living area slowly, the sensation of being watched tightening around her with each step. The cameras were almost impossible to see once she stopped looking for them directly. That made them worse. She would catch one only at the edge of her vision, a minute shift inside a black glass panel, the faint red blink of a sensor gone before she could confirm it. A polished surface reflecting not just her own movement, but the possibility of some mechanism adjusting beyond it. The penthouse was not merely equipped with technology. It had absorbed it into itself so completely that the distinction between room and instrument had collapsed. She felt, with a hollow twist of understanding, less like a guest than a specimen. Not a woman waiting in a living room. A subject inside a controlled environment. A valuable sample under observation. The words surfaced uninvited. Inventory. The taste of it made her jaw tighten. She turned away from the open space and noticed the clock. It stood on a narrow shelf of dark stone built into the wall near the seating area, so minimalist it nearly vanished into the architecture. No frame. No decorative flourish. Just a glossy black surface with red numbers burning cleanly across it. 9:12. Then, 9:13. The digits changed soundlessly. Yet, she felt the transition like a click inside her chest. For a long moment, she stared at it. The clock was not large, but in that room it became the only truly moving thing. The lights breathed. The hidden cameras shifted. The air hummed. But the clock advanced with perfect certainty, 1 minute yielding to the next in a sequence so calm it felt cruel. Those red numbers carried none of the softness of ordinary timekeeping. No domestic familiarity. No sleepy glow from a bedside table. They looked surgical, authoritative, a countdown. She knew rationally that it was simply displaying time. Yet the longer she looked at it, the more impossible that interpretation became. Every minute felt transactional, measured against her. Each change of digit a reminder that her father's safety existed now on the other side of a bargain signed with her own freedom. Time itself had been itemized, bought, assigned value. 9:14. Her throat tightened. How long ago had she signed? How long ago had the papers been finalized, the decisions activated, the consequences set into motion? Somewhere in the city, perhaps at this exact moment, systems were already rearranging around her father's life. Calls made, pressures lifted, threats withdrawn. His relief might already be real. And here she stood in a room that tracked her movements and counted forward in red. The contrast was so sharp it almost made her dizzy. A minute ago, she had still belonged to herself, at least in the private geography of memory. Now even waiting had become a function inside Arthur's world. Even stillness felt owned. She tore her eyes away from the clock, and the hum of the building seemed louder for it. A faint shiver moved through her shoulders. Then, without warning, a screen across the room awakened. The black wall panel near the bar area flickered once, subtle, elegant, almost polite. Then a soft amber interface bloomed into visibility, illuminating the stone around it with a restrained glow. No startling brightness. No chime. Just the unmistakable activation of something that had been waiting for the precise moment to address her. Isabella froze. For one absurd second, she thought Arthur might appear there himself, his face emerging from the dark glass as if the penthouse had chosen to speak with his voice. Instead, the panel resolved into a minimalist display. White text, clean lines, no excess. At the top, centered and impossible to mistake. Isabella Duarte. Her breath slowed. Beneath her name, a schedule. A 24-hour sequence arranged with merciless calm. Refresh. Dress is in the master suite. Dinner at 9. Below that, later entries partially visible, as if the screen had more to reveal if she came closer. A time for breakfast. A meeting block. A notation regarding transportation. The structure of an entire life beginning to be drafted in front of her before she had even been formally welcomed into the room. She did not move immediately. The sight struck her harder than the cameras had. Because surveillance was one thing. A room that watched her, tracked her, adjusted to her presence. That was invasive, yes, but still abstract. This was personal, administrative. Her name at the top. Her body translated into sequence. Her immediate future transformed into instructions so streamlined they might have belonged to a corporate asset moving through a logistics chain. Refresh. Dress is in the master suite. Dinner at 9. The language was almost offensively efficient. No greeting. No question. No request. Just assignment. She laughed once under her breath, though no humor touched it. The sound disappeared into the room instantly, devoured by rugs and engineered silence. An asset, she thought. Not even a person. A managed variable. An object with timing requirements. Or worse, an acquisition. Her chest tightened at the precision of it. She had spent her life organizing work, solving crises, making impossible decisions under pressure. She knew the language of schedules, of necessity, of prioritization. But there had always been one final freedom hidden inside all that movement, the illusion that she was the one arranging it. Here, that illusion was gone. The schedule on the wall did not invite cooperation. It assumed compliance. She stepped closer to the screen, drawn by equal parts anger and disbelief. The interface responded instantly, brightening a fraction as if recognizing proximity. More entries slid into view with frictionless grace. 9 p.m. dinner. 7 a.m. breakfast. 10 a.m. review. 11:30 a.m. driver. A life reduced into clean segments. A person made into inventory. The rebellion inside her rose at once, sharp, hot, instinctive. Her hand almost lifted toward the panel, not to touch it, but to strike it, to smear those immaculate letters, to erase her name from this polished command structure. She imagined pulling the cord out of the wall, if there was a cord, smashing the glass, leaving the schedule fractured on the floor in glittering pieces. But the image ended where reality began. The signature. Always the signature. Not as memory now, but as restraint. Because rebellion felt powerful only until it collided with consequence. And consequence no longer belonged to her alone. Her father. That was the chain Arthur had forged most effectively, not around her wrists, not around her body, but around the part of her that still answered to love. Any refusal now was not simple defiance. It was a calculation of risk. A test of how much strain the bargain could tolerate before it endangered the thing she had surrendered herself to protect. The knowledge sickened her. Because it worked. That was the most humiliating part. It worked. She stared at the instruction again. Refresh. Dress is in the master suite. Dinner at 9. There was something almost obscene in the civility of it. As if her transition into this world might be made elegant by good tailoring and polished language. As if coercion became less real when written beautifully on expensive glass. The hum of the penthouse deepened around her, or perhaps her nerves only amplified it. The air moved in its hidden channels. The lights held her in precise illumination. Somewhere above and behind and beyond her, cameras watched without blinking. The red digits on the clock continued their soundless march. 9:18, 9:19, countdown. The words settled in with fresh force. Not to an explosion, not to catastrophe, to dinner, to meeting him, to the next irreversible step. She looked around the living area again, at its intimidating order and automated intelligence, and suddenly understood something that frightened her more than overt cruelty ever could. Arthur did not need to shout to control a space. He built systems that made obedience feel inevitable. Rooms that anticipated movement. Schedules that appeared before a question was formed. Silence that pressed until resistance had to spend itself just to remain standing. A master of the clock, she thought. Not because he was punctual. Because he understood that time, when arranged correctly, became power. And here, in the low rhythmic hum of his penthouse, with her name glowing obediently on the wall, and the next hour already decided for her, Isabella felt that power close around her with suffocating elegance. Her heart rebelled. Her signature held. And between those two truths, she remained very still, listening to the numbers change. And then, she understood something. This wasn't just control. It was ownership. And tonight, she would finally meet the man behind it.